Aloha and welcome to Live from Caid. Tonight's special guest is the Baron of Western Seas, His Excellency Geoffrey de Cam. And featuring a live performance by Lord Drake Oranwood, Queen's Bard for the East Kingdom. Me? Why, I'm your announcer, Master Bjorn of the Northern Sea. And here's your host, Master Laertes McBride.
Greetings and good evening. Thank you for joining us this week. Appreciate you coming back. We have a fantastic show today, and let's get these Caid-specific announcements out of the way for everyone. Just a reminder, there's no events beginning of Caid through the end of August, per their majesties. So enjoy being inside. And also the next Royal Thursdays, where their majesties come along and give us an update of the ongoing situation and any news from the Crown, is scheduled for the second Thursday of August, which will be August 13th. So thank you very much for joining us, and let's go ahead and bring my friend Bjorn in. Bjorn, here he comes. Right now. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
How are you today?
I'm doing well and trying to figure out just how many drinks I can make with crushed ice.
Well, you could make an icy.
There is icy involved, yes. Yes.
Is there a difference between an icy and a Slurpee? I don't think there is, other than a brand name.
Brand name and possibly dysentery? I'm not sure.
Oh, no, that's a slushy. It's a dysentery worry. The ones where, like, you go to that truck stop as you're driving through, I won't mention the Kingdom Meridian, and there's that slushy sitting in the corner, and it's unnatural color. Yeah, that one's the scary one.
Yes, those colors are not allowed in nature, but they are allowed at truck stops. So that's a true fact.
True point. Well, what do you have today for our arts and sciences?
Well, it's rather strange that you brought up Meridies, and we'll have to talk about that later. In honor of our fine Meridian friend and member of the tech crew of Between Two Peers, Baby Ninja, Lord Kikuchi Kazumitsu, we are going to do our first website called sengokudaimo.com. Now, sengokudaimo.com was created many, many years ago by the late Anthony J. Bryant. This site, it has connections to merchants, projects, and clothing patterns, in addition to links and articles pertaining to the history of medieval Japan, specifically reenacting aspects of life in medieval Japan in the SCA. And that is because Mr. Bryant was also known as Baron Edward of Effingham, former Palatine Baron of the Barony of the Far West, not Western Seas, Far West, the one further to the west. But since we have a Palatine Baron on tonight, it just seemed fitting to also have someone mentions in arts and sciences. He was made a Pelican in the West Kingdom, and then after some travel, he was made a Laurel for his Japanese research in the Kingdom of the Mid-Realm. And why this matters is His Excellency often walked amongst us in the guise of his alter ego. I'm going to have to look at this to make sure I get it right. Hiraizumi Torokoro Tadanobu no Nason. Now, I personally, me, Bjorn, spent several years actually doing sumo amateur-wise, and I did get a chance to go overseas and study, and Japanese aspects and how they were done in the SCA, I always found fascinating. And although it never called to me as something that I wanted to do, simply because the armor itself is just so intricate, His Excellency Baron Edward, Hiraizumi, really did it perhaps in a way that no one else had before, and possibly not since. He was also a graduate of Takushoku University, and while he was there, he wrote the first of his 4 books for London's Osprey Publications, and a lot of us have some of those on our own bookshelves. And this one was from their Elite Series, number 23, The Samurai. Some of you check, you might have his very book on on your shelves right now. But sengokudaimo.com has all sorts of things, hakama patterns, information about the very tail end of or the beginning of the Tokugawa period, and what was the start of the Edo period, which really is the ending point for us to do research. And it was while I was doing the research for this website that I actually came upon the other websites we're going to talk about today. And these two others really work in tandem for many of us to use, but we don't always remember. And they are books.google.com and scholar.google.com. These two sites work so well in Congress for initial research and citations. As a matter of fact, Baron Edwards, or Hiraizumi's final book that he wrote before his untimely passing in 2013, was called Sekigahara 1600, The Final Struggle for Power. And while I was doing the research in scholar.google.com, I came up in my searches and was able to find not only how many other scholars had cited it, but also how I could cite it if I wanted to. And you can look it up and see how it should be properly cited in MLA, APA, Chicago, Harvard, or Vancouver formats. And it's something for those of us that want to do research. Several weeks ago, we had the editor for Tournaments Illuminated with us, and they had talked about how they would always love additional things to be submitted. This is a good way to start. If you have something you would like to look at, something you want to do, and you don't have the books yet, looking those up on books.google.com or looking up the authors, the researchers on scholar.google.com is a way that you can do that. But I just wanted to say that in honor of Lord Kikuchi, otherwise known as Baby Ninja, I just had to bring this up because this website really was the starting point. And this was one of the first people in the SCA also that brought their research in the mundane world, and they really affected how people did things in the SCA. So in honor of the late Baron Edward, I also wanted to bring this to your attention for those of you that study things that are more of a Japanese bent than something that is just strictly European. And that's what we have for today.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Oh, well, that was fantastic. I love that the way you're honoring him and highlighting all that work that's out there available for people to visit and learn from.
The Mid-Rome has a really large group of people that are dedicated to doing Japanese research, and many of their websites, even now, still mention Sengoku Daimo. After his passing in 2013, several of his friends got together. They've archived the original site, but they also continue to update it to this day. So it still has a lot of very pertinent information in it.
Nice. So here's a quick transition. Who's our first guest tonight?
Well, if we're going to talk about Palatine Barons in the West, out there in those beautiful islands that could be hit by, I don't know, hurricanes or such, or are they typhoons? Never sure. We have the Baron of the Western Seas, His Excellency Geoffrey, is visiting us this evening.
All righty. Well, Bjorn will send you to just off the screen, and let's bring His Excellency in. It helps if I click the right button. And hello, Your Excellency. How are you?
Greetings. Doing well. Doing well.
Well, thank you for joining us so far away. We're coast to coast to coast this evening, and so we were talking just a little bit before the show that the hurricane that came by actually skirted north of the island, so there wasn't a big dramatic impact, right?
Indeed. There's usually a lot of scare that happens when someone just says the word hurricane around here. There have been a couple of cities in the state that have just been pretty much toasted since with that type of thing. Large storms come by on a regular basis, but not often do they actually do anything nasty. So we always get prepared.
Do you get good surfing from
it? You can if you're suicidal. Storm surge is notorious for creating amazing cliffside waves. nothing I would deliberately put my body in the path of.
The closest I've gotten to surfing is watching the videos at Islands restaurants here in Southern California. Um, they're not sponsors, but I thought I'd say it like just in case.
Sure.
So you're the Baron of Western Seas. We all know that means, but it's different than how it is here in mainland Caid. It is a Palatine barony, correct? And could you explain what that means?
Indeed. So Palatine barony, every year we choose a new baron. The barony happens on alternate years, either via a combat competition, or on the alternate year after that would be an arts and science competition. I personally won on the arts and science competition. I had some leather work that people found to be good, and so I now get to wear the coronet for a year. So that's how that run. The exiting baron prepares the tournament for the next contest, and there's the standard not necessarily application, but people who want to become baron have to put in the "Hi, I want to be a baron" to the crown, and list who they are, qualification-ish sort of things, how long you've been in, what you think about X, Y, or Z, and then there is the luck of the sword. Sometimes you just never know how it's going to turn out. So yeah.
So I imagine the combat one is armored combat, and it's like a regular tournament. More
correct.
Right? And y'all alternate, like you said. So 1 year says, and it used to be every 6 months. Is that correct? And then it kind of changed.
And not since I've been here, and I've only been here about involved for 4 years with current barony. So prior to that, not sure.
Yeah, I think back in 2009, I actually did some research. Back in 2009, it switched from every 6 months to every year. Okay, but for the arts and sciences one, who does the judging? Is it the current baron and baroness, or is there a panel?
No, there's a panel of laurels and pelicans, and I believe one saint, Marco. Sir Marco is a pelican, a laurel. There's 4 judges that go through the work, and each gave me the write-up as far as things they thought awesome, things they thought I could do better with, things that were like, what are you doing? And yeah, it was good. It was good feedback just as an artist to get. And it also felt pretty like, well, didn't I do a thing? So I did. So yeah, it was cool. It was cool. It was a good thing.
Now let's talk about your consort, Her Excellency. Her Excellency, she's unable to be with us today because it's early where you are. But she's been the Baroness 2 times before. Is that correct?
Correct. Which is one of the reasons why I actually chose her to be Baroness. This is my first time with the coronet, and so I'm kind of like, am I doing this right? And she's like, yes, keep going. And and it's cool. It's there's a lot of people here who actually care quite a bit that this goes as smoothly, and that they've been really supportive in helping the newbie baron out. And so it's been grand. It's been grand.
Now, I'm sure y'all had your share of challenges considering what's going on with the pandemic.
Yes.
And I know Hawaii was I believe was one of the first ones that said if you come in, you have to stay in your hotel room for 14 days.
Correct.
And such.
Correct.
So I'm sure that's had a very dramatic impact, just like it has here on the mainland, on y'all getting together and having events and just socializing. Correct?
Yes. The 14-day quarantine. Anybody who travels into the island from outside of the state gets to stay in their house or their the place that they're staying for 14 days, which is very restrictive. And the government will call you every other day saying, are you staying in? And is everything okay? Do you have any symptoms? And they're very watchdog about it, which is very cool. I'm glad that they're looking out for me. Some people might call it draconian, but it is an unstable, unknown time. with what's currently going on. We've had just in the last couple of days, we've had just a serious spike in cases here. Now, a serious spike for us, is we're up from 10 a day or 3 a day to like upwards of 60 and 70 a day. This has been a bit of a wacky. I think many people are just blaming it. So at the beginning of July, we started opening up things more, parks, beaches, and there's a lot of speculation that a lot of stuff got transmitted during the 4th of July gatherings and things of that ilk. So, it still keeps people on their guard, and they're still good, and it's been really great for the delivery services.
True here too. So
yeah.
So a couple other things, and then you'll have a couple of questions. But so I know you've played SCA not just in Western Seas, but in other kingdoms. Right. So what would you think makes a Western Seas event unique compared to what you've seen on the mainland?
Scale mostly. Western Seas, there's only 1 million people on this island. So we are not as large as, say, Antir and Madrone, where I came from in Seattle. We had, so the large gatherings that we have are usually 12th Night and Baronial, and our Castle North Prize Tournament are usually the larger of the events that we get. Scale gets you is they're definitely seeming to be smaller events, but a larger part of it is that is because they're smaller events. There's much more family vibe. Everybody knows everybody, and it is it's a good feeling. It's a very inclusive feeling. Even when new people do arrive, they are everybody just gathers around to meet them. It's just the idea of belonging. There's a lot of belonging that I truly actually enjoy about the barony here, and I like what they have given. They've offered that to me when I got here, and it has been a real boon to me and for me to be with these lovely people.
See, for me, I've never been to a Western Seas event. I hate to admit I've never been to Hawaii, but in my head, I picture you have an event and then you dig a pit and roast a pig. So that's what I always pictured in my head. So.
Under normal circumstances, if we did that not on public property, oh yes, that would happen. Oh yes. However, city and county has a tendency to frown upon digging an or a pig pit in the middle of a public park. So, however, we do have some very talented cooks and chefs that reside here. There's a newly appointed knight in Maui who is an executive chef for one of the larger hotels there. We have a previous baron and a previous baroness who are either ran a restaurant or are noted caterers. So yes, food here is a good thing. Oh yes, it's a good thing.
That's fantastic. So speaking of food, we'll turn to our chef in residence, Bjorn. Bjorn, do you have any questions for His Excellency?
Well, I do. First off, as a Bardic Laurel, I'm just amazed by the canton of Bard's Keep in Western Seas. But I also understand that the lands that comprise Bard's Keep seem to be a little intangible. Like some folks claim to belong there and they don't, and maybe it might be Torvald or it might be Castle North. Can you explain how? Because here it is this county, or it is these sets of zip codes. So what is it about the nature of Western Seas where it's like, well, you're in Bard's Keep, but are you? How does that work exactly?
So when I got here, I was living in Torvald, and there were definitely just the place. So you start with your geography. The people start with their geography, and then as you get to know the people and you start getting into where you can you start get affiliating with various families and households around it, just because either you see them more or they're closer to you, or you have more fun at one fighter practice than another fighter practice. So there have actually been declared battles over lines and the movement of the boundaries, so that we could so that your address falls within one canton or another. It's been kind of grand that way. It's much more of a game here than it is demographics and politics. So yeah, it's a lot of not to say that demographics and politics are the only way to do things, and that's a bad thing. But just because of the economies of scale here, we can have a little bit more fun with the canton rivalry and things of that ilk. Torvald being mostly of Honolulu. Torvald, I think one of the Nordic languages for stone trees. Bard's Keep originally started because one of the large, when things were set up, the bard of one of the larger well-known bards in Honolulu lived out on the west side, leeward side, and so they called it Bard's Keep. Castle North, where was mostly the windward side, eastern side, and so yeah, just those battles happen. I'm not going to say regularly, but they did happen a lot more often than they used to, just as sizes change and things of that ilk. Yeah.
The last question I have is that I keep seeing the terms pirates and scallywags all about various cantons, and I'm curious. So, who determines what canton is rife with scallywags and pirates, or is that just whoever is the canton that you're not in is full of pirates?
Yes, it's definitely an us and them sort of thing going on in that particular point. It's just standard battlefield trash talk. It's fun, and some people take it and run with it and have a really good time being pirates and scallywags. But yeah, it's usually just we are upstanding citizens and they are pirates and scallywags, and it's the us and them. Just get a little bit more rivalry when you're trying to kill each other with a sword.
Thank you so much.
Certainly.
Well, thank you. So now we've come to one of my favorite parts of the show. Is we like to play a little trivia game with our guest, and it's usually related to something you may know. So, hey Bjorn, what is this one called this week?
Today's is called spam, 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 spam.
Baked beans and spam.
Yes. So, as you may know, Hawaii is known for its enjoyment of spam. So, I thought it would be a great opportunity for everyone to learn more about spam and to test your knowledge. I just have a few questions, so just bear with me. This one won't be timed, though. So, okay. So there is actually an official spam museum. So,
yes.
Do you know which state hosts the official spam museum?
It's not here, though it ought to be, because we deserve it. Probably the manufacturing state of, I'm going to say Wisconsin or someplace Midwest.
Oh, you're off by one state. It's Minnesota. Oh, you are so close. Man, I would have been super impressed. Okay, so the only reason I asked this question is because I love the answer to this next one. So what are the docents in the museum called?
The docents of that museum.
What are they called? I just love this answer. It's the only reason I had to ask that other question.
Well, I would make the scientific wild guess of a spamologist.
Oh, once again, so close. No, they're called spambassadors.
Ambassadors.
He's really very good at these guesses.
I know. I love the word spambassadors. Your Majesty, you need to have spambassadors in the kingdom.
Yes.
Okay, so he watches for some reason. Okay. So speaking of spam, here's a tougher one. What are the 6 ingredients in spam?
Pork and beef. Ish. Pork and beef ish. There is some egg, I think, and a vast array of chemicals.
Close, but no, really, it sounds much more healthy than it is. So 6 ingredients are pork with ham. So I have a question, Bjorn. What's the difference between pork and ham?
I think one wants to be an actor.
Oh, nice. Thanks for that help. Pork with ham, and then there's salt, water, potato starch, sugar, and sodium nitrate. That's it. Nothing else. So, who
Well,
knew?
spam stands for spiced ham. It's a contraction of that. That's what that is.
Well, there you go.
There ain't no spices in there. There's salt and sodium nitrate. False advertising.
Salt is a spice.
Two questions, 2 left. Okay, so there are 15 official varieties of spam.
Mm-hmm.
Which of these are not an official one?
Okay.
Short list. So when I say one that's not one, just let me know. So
Okay.
Teriyaki. Okay.
I've seen that.
Portuguese sausage.
Seen that.
Yeah, and just a little note, those 2 flavors were made specifically for the Hawaiian clients.
Yep.
Bacon.
Bacon spam. Maybe.
Okay, I'll give you that one too. Once again, Bjorn, what's the difference between bacon and spam? The review I read of it said it tastes just like spam. So,
I think bacon spam is just bacon that has lost the will to live.
oh, nice.
I can see that.
Spam with eggs.
Spam with eggs, not in a can.
Oh, there you go. Okay, that's one of them. Spam with cheese.
That is there. I've seen that.
Okay, and pineapple spam.
I've seen that.
No, you haven't. That one's fake.
I've not seen pineapple spam.
No, you would think.
I would think that.
No, I know.
thought I've seen that.
You should write Hormel.
I've seen
Okay,
the pineapple spam pizza.
I know.
I've seen they serve them. They do. They do.
I would imagine. Okay, so last question.
Sure.
The state with the highest per person consumption of spam is indeed Hawaii. On average, how many cans of spam does a resident of your state eat in a year?
Cans of spam, I'm going to say upwards of 30.
Holy crap. And that's why everyone has blood pressure problems in Hawaii.
Yeah.
No, it's just slightly over 5.
5?
Yeah.
Somebody's slacking. Somebody's slacking.
But nice to know you eat 30 cans of spam a year.
Oh, not me personally, I know.
Oh, here's all the varieties in case you're wondering. So,
Wow. Yes, indeed.
that
Yeah,
looks
so
delicious.
there's a market here called Don Quixote, which is spelled with a J instead of an X. Very funny. But they actually have the spam section that has many of those things in it.
Well, that's fantastic. I hope everyone learned about spam today.
There you
Well,
go.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for taking time away from surfing and coming on our show today. Again, I've never had the opportunity to come out to Hawaii. It's fascinating for me.
Always welcome.
The fact that you have the Palatine barony and how it works, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and
Silly.
thank goodness the storm passed through without any trouble. So.
Indeed.
Good luck choosing your successor.
Right? Yes, that'll be interesting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Friend.
You have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Yep.
That was fascinating.
Yeah,
What
it
a
was.
What a nice gentleman.
I see. That's the thing is we both were interviewing him, and neither one of us has actually been to Hawaii, so it's kind of
I've seen Moana and Lilo and Stitch and Blue
yeah, me
Hawaii
too.
and Blue
Yeah.
Hawaii. So I think I know it. Speaking of musical performances, who do we have joining us this evening?
Our performance guest this evening is Lord Drake Oranwood, who is the Queen's Bard for the Kingdom of the East. And of course, we were very fortunate to have Her Majesty of the East, Margarita de Siena, with us some time ago. And we have had so many comments of other performers that have been on the show and other people in the Bardic community that have just said, please, you should probably get Drake on. And so we're very, very fortunate that he has consented, especially with the time change that he's on the East Coast and we were talking to people in Hawaii, that he is with us this evening.
All righty. Well, Bjorn, we'll put you away for a minute. And let's bring Drake onto the show. He'll be here right about now. Well, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
So you're coming to us from the East Kingdom. What state over there are you in?
New Jersey.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for staying up late. I do appreciate you coming on the show. As Bjorn mentioned, we had Her Majesty on the show about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And what an amazing lady. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God, yes.
The word I described her is effervescent. She just brings this lightness and energy and happiness.
Yeah, that captures her very well. Not for nothing that her mundane name is Joy.
Oh, my gosh. I didn't know that. So
yeah.
And speaking of Her Majesty, you are the Queen's Bard for the Kingdom of the East.
I have that honor, and the East is a competitive place. We have a pretty deep field. I have been coming to these competitions for a number of years, and the talent that has been coming out, people with professional backgrounds. I'm a scrappy upstart from where I'm sitting. I really, really wanted to be Margarita's bard, more than I've wanted anything in a very long time. And so I was deeply, deeply gratified that she saw fit to choose me, and that she felt that I was fit to be her mouthpiece. It's a tremendous honor, and to represent this kingdom, which for all we've been through, I feel we have been shining in some challenging times.
So for Caid, we have a Kingdom Bard, and it's a multi-event competition.
I've heard the stories about that, and for all that we have a full day intensive event, the idea of having to go to multiple events to be able to be selected, that intimidates me.
So it's just one big event where y'all kind of duke it out.
It's an all day 3-round competition. We typically have a field of maybe 20. This year was a little bit smaller because it was further south. But as I said, the field was really deep. The talent was impressive. There's always somebody that nobody saw coming. This year, that was Ulfar, who was an amazing storyteller. And so we ended up with the final 5 at the end of the second round. And so for the finals, it is customary for the royals to present a challenge. And Her Majesty showed me that she was a bard when she kind of just leaned in. She said, "Your challenge today, my challenge for you is bring your best." And it sent a thrill down my spine, because that is a bard's challenge.
So everyone's in the first 2 rounds, and then they kind of winnow it down.
Everyone's in the first round.
Okay.
They typically have a pretty severe cut. They usually cut about half for the second round. And then, as I said, they cut it down. They try to get it down to 4, usually for the finals. This year, it sounded like they had a tough time, so they brought it down to 5. As I said, so it was exciting as all heck. I made it to the finals before, but this was the first time I got chosen.
So is the event just strictly about determining Her Majesty's Bard, or is it part of a larger?
There are sometimes other things included. There usually is at least something. And of course, as we have a bit of event creep over the years, it becomes more and more important to find ways to combine things. I know for myself, there was at least 1 year, maybe two, where they combined A&S, Kingdom A&S champs, with Bardic, which was in some ways amazing because it gave the combined event a lot of heft. But at the same time, it also meant that their majesties and everybody else present really spent all day dividing their attention between two very distinct, though overlapping, fields of endeavor. So I've been pleased that the last couple of years, the Bardic there have been other things. There's usually elevations and things going on. But the Bardic itself, a lot of people in the East feel that is reason enough to come. It is certainly one of my favorite events. I get to see some of the incredible talent, and just these are my friends. These are my friends the last 8 years. That I've been growing with and getting to see them come into the community. Occasionally, been one of the people who helped crack the door open for somebody, and the people who gave me a warm welcome when I stepped into this.
Okay, well, how long have you been in the SCA and doing Bardic?
Well, those are two very different questions. I first started in the SCA not quite 30 years ago as a young lad right out of college, and didn't quite find my niche. Then my wife and I, she had background in the SCA as well. She was the one who introduced me to Pennsic. I fell in love with that. And then we had our child. So about 8 years ago, our son was at a place where we felt he was really old enough to be comfortable, coming to an event that scale. We wanted to try it and see how it went with him. So we went, and now I think it was 9. But about 8 years ago, I said, I'm going to do this seriously. I have friends who've told me they really like the songs that I've been writing, and that I should really take this seriously, and that this should be the thing I go after. And I said, I think, let's try it. And here we are now. So.
Now, I know Bjorn was very excited to have you on the show this evening. And actually, we're going to do something special. He has a question for you. Normally, he's napping at this time, but that's a question.
Oh, okay. Not this evening. First off, I wanted to say thank you very much for all of the work that you've been doing with the Bardic community on Facebook. I really appreciate sort of being an administrator and a moderator during these very challenging times. I also want to thank you for giving it up to some very fine people that will be taking it in an excellent direction.
Right. Yes, that's right. That just was this week. Right. Yesterday was 8 years since the group opened, and I was really proud that the network we have there was such that there were some great people who stepped up. There's a new group that I've just launched called SCA Neurodiversity to focus on issues that are really near and dear to my heart and that I want to see a conversation on. And I knew it was going to require a lot of my focus. So I realized, my wife said to me, if you want to do this, which plea are you willing to put down? Are you willing to step away from moderating Bardic Arts? And I said, yeah, I am. It's 8 years. The group is amazing. They are lively and boisterous, but actually extremely compassionate and very well behaved overall. It really runs itself almost all the time, so thank you. And I'm running on.
The reason that I brought it up actually was because of the new group that you are starting, the neurodiversity group. And so before you perform for this evening, if you wouldn't mind taking just a few moments and letting us know about the neurodiversity group that you are championing now.
Absolutely. So neurodiversity is a term that speaks to differences in how people learn, how their brains work. I have attention deficit disorder myself. My son, who's 15 now, Part of the reason that we wanted to be careful about bringing him to an event of the scale of Penzic is he is on the autism spectrum and he has ADHD as well. These challenges, they're very important to me. I have written a couple of pieces speaking about those things with an SCA appropriate lens. And in particular, I've had concerns that there are some real difficulties of fit sometimes between someone who's neurodivergent, like myself, someone who's not neurotypical, whose brain operates in a different way. And these are terms of art that are not about stigma. You'll notice I'm not using the word disorder, and I'm not using the word disability. These are different operating systems. People on the spectrum, there's no question they face tremendous challenges. People with attention deficit disorder, and it often gets overlooked by comparison, can face tremendous difficulty in our work lives, in our family lives, and in SCA culture. There is a lot of expectation I've had to learn to adjust to around tact, diplomacy, courtesy, all of which, of course, are crucial values. And they are additionally tricky when you begin with executive dysfunction, things that make it difficult to keep track of everything that's going on in a room, issues of self-control, when it's hard to keep track and sometimes stay completely in the moment and remember what everyone else is saying. I sometimes use my spaces, my role as a performer, as a way to focus the room on me, because it's easier than juggling everything else that's going on and wondering, what am I going to hear from my peer about that I didn't notice at the time, from someone that I'm not going to know who it was, so I'm not going to be able to put the moment back together and figure out what I did wrong, because our process is by design anonymous. I think there's a lot of ways in which that works really well. And with the right teachers, and I have had some excellent teachers and I have a great team right now, it can be really helpful. People who are neurodivergent can also be subject to rejection-sensitive dysphoria, meaning the smallest criticism really goes in, like a barb. And it's really easy to ruminate on it and get obsessed with it. And it can turn some of us into big people pleasers, which again can play into the Bard thing. And also sometimes we take a long time to answer a short question.
So for the new group that you're starting, is it, you find it on Facebook, or what should people look
It's a Facebook group. It is called SCA Neurodiversity. Anyone is welcome. I have a set of questions that I pose. I've set the group rules so that I want people to be really mindful of the idea that if we're going to be discussing these kinds of very vulnerable topics, very personal, my invitation is that for the most part, neuro, right, followed by diversity.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's okay. My ask is that for the most part, we leave our hat at the door, because I want people to be able to talk. I have friends who are duchesses, who are neurodivergent, who share some of the same challenges I have. And I want us to have a space where we can talk about how do we adapt, how do we mask it, and what are some of the ways that our friends and allies, I have a number of friends who are neurotypical who are in there, who are very interested in learning about this, like any other inclusion, diversity, and equity issue. How do I help? Are there ways we can make the culture a little more inclusive? Are there ways we can help people withhold judgment when somebody comes across as less mature than we're expecting, and recognize the full context of what's going on?
I think that's excellent. And also, what I'm looking forward to, especially because with my sister and all of her children in the SCA, and so many of my friends, is that they will have neurodiversity with their children, and being able to bring them to events and understand, like, for some on the spectrum, the loud banging, crashing noises coming from the fighting field, or the bright colors and people running around, and just how to help them sort of not necessarily dispose of those imagery, but how to mute it somewhat to where it's a little more palatable for them, since that's so much at once. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where the Facebook group goes, and I just wanted to thank you for starting the group. I think it's going to be a wonderful resource for both allies, people that are that are not neurotypical, and also for parents of those people. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, and for answering the question. I appreciate it very much, Drake.
I guess I probably should have expected it. I wasn't thinking about it, but thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share about it so that people are aware.
It sounds like you've channeled a lot of that energy too into your performances, like you were saying. Indeed,
and the piece that I have for tonight, while it is not the particular inclusion aspect I chose not to focus on that one happens to be neurodiversity. As I said, it's come up with some of the other pieces I've done, but this piece is around these very timely issues of equity and inclusion and diversity. And I'm going to keep futzing with myself until I get a chance to stop looking at the picture and just do something.
All righty. Well, let's turn you over to the piece you're going to perform tonight. Thank you.
Yes. This was the piece that I presented when Her Majesty Margarita invited us to bring our best. I spent a few months I'd spent a long time thinking about it. In some ways, looking back, it feels kind of prescient to find a way to tell a story that works in the SCA frame about why it is essential to hold space for people who look different than you, who have different life experiences than you, who have different perspectives. I don't want to overdo it and spoil the fun of the story, but I wasn't sure I was going to be able to bring this beast down. But I chose the frame of the Arthurian legends, particularly Mallory's Mort Arthur as a primary source, and have woven together a set of stories from some of the more intriguing side characters that I discovered as I really dug into the research.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me take a moment. Will you hearken a while? For I must speak of Gareth, my brother, my teacher, my friend, of the youngest and best of the 4 brothers Orkney. But old stories come to an end. He inquired once, Gawain, would you do me a service? My friend here needs somewhere to stay. It was Brynwyn, the handmaid of Princess Isolde. I had heard she'd been stolen away. Please, Gawain, keep her safe from all eyes, I implore you. He said, Gareth, what's this affair? For what business should knights keep young women in hiding? He cut off my words with a glare. Are we chivalry's legends? Read closely the tale. In the margins it shows if we thrive or we fail. Dear Gawain, eldest brother I prize and adore. You will learn that as knights we owe more. What might we hold if we hold the door open? What could we have if a haven we make? If we stand in need and we hold the door open, the might of our table won't break. The might of our table won't break. Brynwyn said, my Isolde is in love with a young man, but she was to marry a king. So her mother contrived to ensure this alliance, and she took me under her wing. I would pour her a drink that would change Isolde's passion, make her husband king in her eyes. I refused to do wrong to a lady's consent. Then she seized me, ignoring my cries. A cold night in the woods might bring me to my senses, so I was left bound to a tree. Palamedes the Saracen came to my aid. He believed me, and he set me free. Will you keep Garrett's promise that I won't be caught? Lady Brynwyn, forgive me, I'd given no thought. Sir Gawain, women all, be we servants or wives, should have sovereignty over our lives. What might we hold if we hold the door open? What could we choose with the choice freely ours? If we stand in trust and we hold the door open, our kingdom might shine like the stars. Our kingdom might shine like the stars. So I left her and sought after Sir Palamedes, who each man he faced he'd unseat. But no matter his valor, each tournament day would the Saracen end in defeat. Palamedes, I asked him when we were alone, have you been holding back from your best? He said, one of my color outshining these knights. Sir Gawain, that's a risk I'll not test. Many say that I'm pining for princesses old, but it's Brynwyn who's captured my heart. She accepts me in fullness and gave me her word that my faith would not keep us apart. I said, good Palamedes, a fool have I been, for your chivalry's not in your faith or your skin. When he held Brynwyn close on the day they were wed, I remember the words that he said. What might we hold if we hold the door open? What is it worth if we value each soul? If we stand in truth and we hold the door open, our kingdom might truly be whole. Our kingdom might truly be whole. You recall Gareth first came to Camelot nameless and served in the kitchen a year. You discovered his virtues and you gave him knighthood, but there's more I need you to hear. A few days before Yule, I approached him in private and said, there's a kinship I sense. I could swear you were Gwyneth, my sweet darling sister. What mean you behind this pretense? Oh, Gawain, hear me please, that is my name no longer, for lady nor lord strikes me true. But it's knighthood that calls me. If you keep my secret, then I'll be a brother to you. Thus at Pentecost next, our young knight won a claim for a place at the table round bore Garrett's name. Oh, we Orkneys, we kept this conspiracy fast, but he idolized you to the last. What might we hold if we hold the door open? What could we dream if we dreamed it for all? If we stand in pride and we hold the door open, our fellowship, how could it fall? Our fellowship, how could it fall? Some months back, Garrett said, keep your eye upon Mordred. He's stirring up fear and dissent. I responded, what mean you? He is our half-brother. How can you malign his intent? Brynwyn told me, Gawain, that he laid hands upon her, and when she declared she was wed, Mordred hinted this place knew its share of adultery. A queen might be caught in her bed. Have you heard how he whispers that Saracen blood is a blight with no place in our court? Gareth, Mordred is kin, and the son of King Arthur. I've seen nothing like you report. You must heed me, Gawain. There are those who speak fair, but their words, they are venom, their questions a snare. They will rise up by fostering division and hate. Don't you see what's at risk if we wait? Who must we hold if we hold the door open? Who of our kind is unkind at the core? If we stand alert and we hold the door open, there are some we must show the door. There are some we must show the door. We arrive, Lancelot, at the end of our story. For Gareth, he died at your hand. When you saved Guinevere, you saw not who her guard was, precisely as Mordred had planned. With his death, I fell prey to my grief and my fury, and Arthur, I pledged him to war. Though I know you loved Gareth as dearly as I did, I could not forgive any more. I helped Camelot fall as I sought you in combat, and this wound may cost me my life. Palamedes at last gives the counsel I needed. My brother sought justice, not strife. So I ask, Lancelot, will you pledge Gareth's creed? Will you welcome the lost and defend those in need? Will you pass on this mission until your last breath, so our brother knight lives beyond death? What might we hold if we hold the door open? How could we live if we lived what we learned? If we stand in love and we hold the door open, could we see our kingdom returned? What might we hold if we hold the door open? How could the cost not be worth the reward? If we stand in hope and we hold the door open, there may come a day it's restored. There may come a day it's restored. Thank you.
Excellent.
Wow. That was incredible. Thank you for sharing that with us this evening.
It was my privilege. Thank you so much for asking me.
I honestly can't follow up with anything on there. That was very. Thank you so much. That's all I can say. I would encourage you to read the comments on the post this evening. A lot of the viewers have a lot of.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
So, I want to thank you again for coming in and sharing that, and appreciate you staying up late. And hopefully, at some point, I'll make it back out to Pinzig when it happens next year, and we can meet in person.
That would be lovely.
Thank you so much. You have a great evening. I think Bjorn even wants to say something.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Drake, for everything.
Thank
I really
you so
appreciate it.
Have a great night. Thank you again. And let's bring Bjorn up. Wow. That was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a Broadway show, on our show.
Well, as they say, everything's legal in Jersey. It just depends upon what you're watching.
I used to and will do improv every Saturday night, and two of my castmates are from New Jersey. So I've gotten many interesting stories over these past few months that we've been getting together. So let's talk about who we have coming on next week. So I think you know who we have as the interview guest. I don't know who you have lined up for the Bardic performance, so it's going to be a surprise for me.
Yeah.
So for our interview guest next Monday, we have the Prince of, oh my gosh, Insulae Draconis.
Yes.
I'm horrible. That's why you say it and not me.
I think you did a serviceable enough job for.
And that would be His Highness Avery. So, and be coming to us almost live from his principality. And you?
I'm still working on it, but because I kind of wanted someone from Drachenwald as well, and so that may necessitate either having two things pre-recorded or not. We're still going to work on that. But it as a quick aside, you know what? No, we're going to hold off and we'll wait until next week.
Okay. Well, Abba is from Drachenwald, so that would be amazing if you could get that.
I don't want to say, well, I'll go ahead. I'll express my age by saying that I saw them live in 1978 in Sweden. So,
Wow.
yes, I have awesome parents. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, once again, my friend, it was great to see you. Thanks for a great show today. And I thought you were going to say something. So I guess.
Well, what I was going to say is as always, Laertes, I really appreciate you getting this thing together. And who knew that when we started this 4+ months ago, it's like, oh, this will just be a couple of weeks. We'll put some ideas out there. We'll let folks know what's not happening in Caid. And now there's just so much happening everywhere.
Right. So if you're enjoying the show, please share it. Invite people to watch. It's more fun with more people. But anyway, we'll be back again next week when once again we'll be live from Caid. We'll see you then.